Hello everyone. I wanted to present a model for instructional design that I learned while attending an ATD course for Advanced Instructional Design. It was presented by a company called Allen Interactions. If you have not seen any of their work, I encourage you to do so. They build interactive training based on simulation, scenario, and/or gamification. Linda Reening was my instructor, but most of the printed material is from Ethan Edwards. Both are employed by Michael Allen at Allen Interactions. Linda Reening describes instructional activity as interactivity that actively stimulates the learner's mind to do those things that improve ability and readiness to perform effectively. CCAF stands for Context, Challenge, Feedback, and Activity. The premise is that learning does not happen passively, and that interaction and engagement are necessary to create lasting change. They created this framework to help designers create the experience of learning where mistakes can be made and learning resource can be continuously accessed when it is most beneficial to the learner. I will attach the white paper of their model, which has more details and includes the obstacles for online course design, including reasons why traditional approaches are not working. However, for this presentation, I want to give you the basic how-tos of applying the model to your own design work. Context is the first impression that you give to your learner. The learner can immediately decide if the training is relevant to them and if it will be engaging or boring. Imagine if the learner had a camera on their shoulder. What does it look like from their perspective? As closely as you can match their working or task-related environment, the better it will be. Content can be broken down into 4 parts. Visual appeal and building a relevant setting can be seen in the example above. Both have the same information, but which one do you think will create a lasting impression and knowledge retention for the learner? The next 2 parts on context are telling a story and creating suspense. Both of the images above will provide the same information, but the learner is more likely to be engaged in which one. Do you see how applying the right context can draw your learner in and make them want to complete your training? Linda reminded us that clicking the next button is not a challenge, unless of course you've hidden the next button. So think about applying the test and then tell method instead of traditional tell and test. Let your learner attempt the activity and then help them where it's needed. An effective challenge will consider the meaningful consequence, have some level of difficulty, a risk based on skill, and an outcome that offers a sense of completion. Consider the examples above. At the top left, you will see a traditional consequence, and then on the right, an example of where the learner needs to justify their response. This is where you can help them along to understand the why. Consider an example like this one on substance abuse, in which you know the learner will not be able to stop because their natural motivation will drive them to your desired outcome of identifying the team member that is using alcohol at work. We are limited by our keyboards to click, drag, or type for an activity, but how we design those activities and the relevance we add to it makes a difference. This is where our context will once again be important in making the training relevant and memorable to our learners. Think about how you can build your navigation into your course to avoid that next, next, next mentality for your learner. Consider these 2 drag and drop activities. You can immediately notice that mimicking the real environment can create lasting knowledge when the context is set up properly, allowing the learner to practice the task. Lastly, remember to allow critical thinking, experimentation, and delayed judgment in your activity. The final piece of CCAF is the feedback that you provide the learner. Intrinsic or extrinsic? Extrinsic examples would include your typical correct, incorrect, and a point score. Intrinsic feedback allows the learner to experience the effect or the consequence of their action. So instead of saying that is incorrect, how about X can be done, but not on time because of Y? Or some other job-relevant feedback that allows the learner to practice their learning. Feedback can be read as in the top example or shown as is evident by the brown apples in the bottom example. Both show the learner the result of their actions, where the doing is part of learning, and that is most likely to create real change. Can you think of a current training project that you can make meaningful, memorable, and motivational using the CCAF framework? I can. I'm going to try it with our project for this class, so stay tuned. Thank you. All images belong to Allen Interactions.